Check out my shirt. Of course, I talk to myself. Sometimes I need expert advice. Yeah. Udio's toast. They changed their model, and the new model, there's nothing of the copyrighted music in it, which is great for the musicians. It's terrible for me because that's the end of the fun. The current models are about as interesting as Suno. There are people who want to create like modern music and be able to shape the kind of stuff that comes out of the engine. I'm not interested in that shit. I want to create stuff like, that came out before, stuff from the past. I want to recreate Genesis tunes. I want to recreate Yes tunes. And I want to use their styles and their voices and stuff to create new content in that style, that everybody preferred. They liked those songs, they'd like more songs, and those artists are not going to produce more songs because they're much too old. And so there is now this chasm, this space where that used to be filled by Udio's old model that is not being filled by anything. And I doubt Udio brings back that model because that's what the record industry disputed, was that. And it's possible that they had their court case and they came to a negotiation, and that was to remove that model and come up with a model that was pretty much was castrated. It had all the good stuff taken out, and all that was left was something that could be used or manipulated to make music, but not the same sort of stuff that would be challenging some certain singer or songwriter, or the style of some artist who's not going to produce anything more. Christine McVie is dead. Phil Lynott is dead. A lot of the musicians that I replicated using Udio are dead. They're not coming back from the grave. Their music is probably worth something. It's always going to be played and stuff. My stuff is not going to be played a lot, but it's satisfying to me to be able to create something that sounds really close to what existed before, but has a different message, or it's revisiting that style and being able to see it's a kind of an alternate history, you see, and it's not going to be filled by anything. And yesterday I was seeing all these messages popping up in Facebook under Udio, and people were saying, this is the end for Udio, and I had not even seen what they had done. I had been spending the entire day uploading stuff that I had made with Udio to the archive, to the Internet Archive. I'm trying to mirror what I've got perfectly on the archive and put it in public domain so that anybody can get access to it. And it's possible that that content could probably be used to make music on the Udio site by using the music as a reference point for tunes, because it's not the copyrighted material. It's the material that was produced by the engine that had been trained on the copyrighted material. So the material that I've got is not representative completely of the copyrighted material. It might use a copyright voice, but there's no legislation, I believe, on copywriting voices or styles. And so it's in public domain. That means that stuff can be used as a source for creating derivative tunes on Udio or Suno. if you can upload the sounds and reuse them. So you could take and chop off something that sounds like Fleetwood Mac, put it in there, and start making Fleetwood Mac tunes. That may be an avenue for that. Somebody could probably use what I produced as part of a new model. That's what they should have done. That's what the Udio guys should have done, is they should have taken all the stuff that model was trained on and generate a whole supply of new stuff, and then retrain the model on that stuff, because that stuff is not copyrighted. It's derived from the model that was trained on copyrighted content, but it's regurgitated out, and that stuff's not copyrighted. It's not really a derivative. It is informed. It's inspired by the original content. It doesn't have any bearing resemblance on the minute level. It resembles it in spirit. And so it would be very hard for them to prove that it was related to the copyrighted material. The only way you'd be able to determine that it was like the copyrighted material is by listening to it and saying, well, that does sound like such and such, and it could be argued that it is such and such, but you could do that with practically anything. The thing to point out is, how is it ruining their capacity to sell their hits? It's not. It's going to be representative of it, but just as much as somebody who's a cover band that's representing somebody that's made it their entire life to sound like some musician. You got tribute artists, you got people who are tribute artists, you got people who are impersonators. And those people hanging out in a certain town in America. It's in, I forgot, it's like somewhere in Missouri. There is a town there where all these guys hang out. You go there to see tribute artists, okay? And those are the guys that make money acting like other bands, like Michael Jackson, or doing all the moves. Then there are people that actually can sing like Neil Diamond, but don't look anything like Neil Diamond, Those are tribute artists. And you don't see the industry jumping on them because they've been around forever. There's no way of getting rid of them. It's just whenever this thing pops up and it can do everybody, that it looks like a real threat to it looks like it's a pretty good thing that they can target, because it might ruin the it might ruin the I'm trying to search for the word, the ecology, the ecosystem or whatever of musicians, of people who are performers and stuff like that. Anyhow, yesterday while I was getting that news, I was also finding something on YouTube where there was a collector, somebody who collects movies from the Warner collection, said that when the DVDs and later discs came out, Warner Brothers gave complete access to their archives by just completely taking old movies and stuff and distributing them on DVD, and then revealed that between 2006 to 2009, they had used a manufacturing firm in America that had used subpar materials in the production of a line of their DVDs, and had led to them rotting. And this guy that was doing this YouTube show said that it hasn't stopped there, that they're still releasing stuff that's rotting. And so I'm thinking to myself, this is one of the three guys that sued Suno and Udio. that were probably caused the change in Udio to get rid of the model that they had that was trained on copyrighted material. And I'm thinking, okay, these guys hold the copyrights and they're treating their consumers like shit. They're releasing products that are rotting. And then they're over here jumping on us for creating content based upon their copyrighted material, and they're not really benefiting their own artists. They actually had figured out ways through contracts and stuff to own the material, to own those works that were created by those artists. So they could in effect take the stuff and make their own model and sell that to the public. They either will or they won't. They're probably going to use it to produce more works that are derivative, or they're going to, as somebody was saying, make a module that'll fit inside of a digital audio workstation, or DAW, so that people could add voices like you hear in YouTube podcasts. You can hear either it's a combination of David Letterman's voice and that NBC anchor, I forgot what his name is. They mix those two guys' voice again, and now you hear it in every one of the YouTube videos. And you're like, well, that's him, but you know it's not him. And it's okay because, but it associates a little more importance to what's being said in those YouTube episodes or videos than really should be. I think over time it'll just be something that your brain will just, yeah. And so it'll be like my stuff, you'll listen to my stuff and you'll say, well, that's not Genesis or, Peter Gabriel. It might bother you a little bit, but I tried to keep the stuff that I produced from being too negative. I didn't want it to detract from I didn't want it to distract people from the original artist. I was actually trying to make the original artist more apparent. I mean, draw people to the artist rather than take them away. I thought that would be a big benefit of this AI music, was to bring people into creating historical fiction, fictional historical music, and as a sort of fun. And I think somewhere down the road, in maybe a week or a month, a year, a decade, who knows, it probably will be just a few months before somebody will release a model in the open source that has everybody's likeness in it. Just like what's happening with deep fakes. People are just passing around face sets for various celebrities. It's not going to stop. And it's going to get worse. It's going to be uncontrollable. They had the chance to invest in a company that was going to make use of it and be able to make use of it in a constructive way. And instead, they decided to stop it. And what's going to happen now is the people who are disgruntled from having been prevented this are going to figure out how to create their own model using copyrighted content, and then they're going to just throw it out on a torrent, and it'll be uncontrollable. It just won't be. I mean, all you have to do is get 10 or 15 people in various parts of the world that don't respect American copyright, or British or American copyright, with servers that are just using VPNs to spread a model for something like MusicGen, and somebody else to work on the part that trains the model and all that, and does the multi-band diffusion and all that to produce the music, because it was all based on open source code in the first place. This wasn't something that was created out of thin air. This is something that had been developed from research. They were just reusing stuff that already exists. And so what's going to happen is somebody's just going to make another one, and this time it's going to be something that the big three can't even touch. It'll be like that YouTube DL that can be used to download YouTube videos that YouTube tried to shut down, but was unable to do so because of some legalities in it that pointed out that it wasn't really illegal or something. I forgot what the issues were, but and what happened is somebody made a derivative version of the YouTube DL software and augmented it. They made it better. And they're distributing it under YouTube DL or DLG or something like that. And so the thing is that all they're doing is buying time. And I'm missing out on the tool that I kind of enjoyed, which was the one that permitted me to experiment with music. Right now, Udio is completely worthless. The stuff that it produces is just a step up from Suno, maybe, but I don't care for Suno either. The only thing I cared about was the ability to create period pieces, things that sounded like they came from a particular era, from a particular artist. It was the exploration of historical fiction music, and that stuff is not going to be competitive with any artist that's alive. You know, Udio's still doing stuff right now that would still be competitive with current musicians. I'm interested in something that has no relationship to that, that doesn't compete with live artists. It competes with nothing, just dead artists, mostly dead musicians that are no longer making music from the 80s or the 70s or 60s. I mean, those guys are in their 70s and 80s, and I mean, they're at the end of their lives, and I can't use that model. I mean, because somebody's, it's really funny. The world will claim that there is no God, there is no Jesus, and all this stuff, but then they won't. They think it's off limits to use a dead person's voice in creating some music. They figure it's unethical. It's unethical to get rid of what was permitting people to have to have ethics at all, And I figure if one's gone, what's it matter if the other one, if we mess with the other one, okay? And these people would turn to me and say, how can you be a Christian when you're doing this over here? And I'm saying, how can you claim that there's no God or none of this stuff over here and protect that? It's because they don't understand what empathy is. I mean, I guess when it really comes down to it, what I'm doing is cheating and is negative in both lights. But for me, it's exploring a fantasy of being able to create content that replicates existing musicians. But the other side of that, even whenever it isn't somebody I can recognize, it produces music that is different, that's new and seems innovative, and um, the stuff that comes out sounds just, how did they, how did it come up with this, or how did it, I've never seen anything, I haven't seen anybody produce music that sounds this way. And now that's no longer there, and I have to make do with whatever's left over because of um, some stupid has-been studio that's actually not benefiting consumers at all. They're holding copyrights. They're basically trolls. They're trolls sitting under a bridge of all media usage and content. They're sitting under a bridge, and they're preventing people from doing anything that's worthwhile or fun. You know, what they consider fun is stuff that makes them money. They don't care about fun. They're not interested in fun. They are interested in fun within a box. They want everything within the box. This can only be fun, but none of this can, you can't use this stuff out here because it's unethical. It's, by their guidelines, is unethical. It's not going to be stuff that they can make money off of. So therefore, it's not the regulated fun. And so I just have to find other fun stuff to do. But I'm taking all my 110 songs that I made with Udio in 4 months, and I'm sticking them on the Internet Archive, putting them in public domain so people can see that the stuff that Udio was producing had expression and had creativity, and it was taken away because they were as stupid as fuck about what they thought Udio was.